About damn time. Welcome back, Dota 2 fans. It's our second CIS series of the day. Twitch chat, forgiving us, please. I've resurrected Franz from the dead of my terrible audio management issues. And he's back. MRP Franz, Gambit Esports versus iPlay, second series of the day. Couple of, I mean, maybe not household names here, Franz, but these are some tier 2 players that in CIS have been around for a long time. Bignum, Shashari Cat, always want to fly. Franzi, are you with me? Muted in Discord.
An error has been made. But
there we go. Here. All right, at least you didn't make it for 2 full fucking games. I really I disappointed the Furby King, but hopefully he'll come around through these next couple series.
You're actually cutting in and out of Discord for me.
Okay.
A little.
Right. Well,
that's fixable. That's very fixable.
We're making strides.
Bans, we have some pretty common bans here. Ancient Apparition Nyx from iPlay. These 2 very powerful heroes. And then the Necrophos pick, also a very meta pick. Necrophos is picked a lot lately because you can lane him anywhere, which is a good point. And then he also scales really well with levels. And he can always catch up with those levels. And so you don't have to put him in a lane that has to win. You can put him in a lane where he gets EXP, and he's very in general he's also very difficult to kill, so the enemy can't really deal with him as well.
There's something to be said about not only being able to stay on map all of the time with your death pulse to stacks, but also being able to kind of farm in lane with impunity. You don't have too many heroes in the game who can kind of freely and confidently farm in lane and then free up other areas of the map, resources on your side like the jungle. And Necrophos definitely fits that bill. As you mentioned, he's the self-sufficient laner that can, even if the lane matchup isn't perfect, at least get his levels and then become that kind of tanky force in towards the mid game to just kind of create space for his team across the map as far as resources go. So if iPlay couldn't get cancerous enough with their first picks, here's a nightmare from all your pubs, Twitch chat. Necrophos Lich opening.
Yep. But Pugna is a hero that can deal with Necrophos. You have that Nether Ward to deal tons of damage to Necrophos. I mean, the mana cost on Necrophos' spells aren't a joke, so Necrophos is going to take a ton of damage from that. But also, Pugna's pretty much pure magic damage, which does really well against Ghost Shroud. And there's really not a lot of heroes in this patch that were picked during and after and before TI that did enough magic damage to kill Necrophos, but Pugna's one of them. Lena's also another one of them.
Yeah, Lena certainly comes to mind, but as you mentioned, 600 mana on that Reaper Scythe. In other words, certainly going to punish you for that use. So I like the opening. It is a bit of a direct response, so Gambit kind of tipping their hand here early. Pugna, not quite as flexible lane-wise as a Necrophos is, but certainly a good answer in a vacuum. They'll pick up the Earthshaker as well for all the reasons you mentioned earlier today. Just a very solid, stable early pick. Can kind of lane him anywhere. He helps out with the lanes, has that long-range stun as well as the Blink Echo potentially at some point in the game. So just a lot of utility at all phases of the game provided by the Earthshaker, and nothing really too much given away as far as putting together a lineup or your draft's intentions when you pick that ES early on. iPlay going to ban out the Enchantress. This is something we see a lot in particularly the CIS region, and maybe perhaps something that can deal with the Lich early on.
Yeah, for sure. So Lich is really hurt in two ways. When you actually kill him in lane, because then he can't do his job. But the other way is if you have a lot of rotations, because Lich doesn't actually move from his lane. Lich doesn't want to move from his lane, and he's not an effective roamer either. So if you have a fast-paced hero like Enchantress that can upend the other team, then Lich can't do his job.
Makes a lot of sense. Omni Knight Drow bans coming out from Gambit. We saw as well. Navi banned the Drow twice earlier today. A couple of ranged heroes already out for iPlay, so certainly would even further kind of try to gain them a laning advantage here. How do you feel about this hero kind of in general recent times? He seems like he's very kind of unforgiving. It's a feast or famine pick. Either does very well or is just completely useless. What's your thoughts on the Void?
So Void, he's strong against certain lanes, and when he is strong, he's pretty much impossible to kill because of time lock. But he provides a ton of teamfight control, which is always valuable no matter what kind of patch it is. But his biggest weakness is that he doesn't farm quickly without items.
Right.
And so if you don't get at least like a decent start, then he has to transition into sort of just like fighting his way back into the game, which he's fine at. But Faceless Voids excel in games where they're farmed enough to go for solo kills with Chronospheres, where they don't have to rely on their teammates to kill people.
Yeah, I mean, they do have some decent damage with the Pugna to contribute into the Chronosphere, but as you mentioned, if you don't have either the solo kill potential from the Faceless Void or some sort of global presence like an Ancient Apparition, which was banned first phase, or an Invoker Sunstrike, it does feel like it really takes a while for Void to get off to a running start. So maybe kind of partly the thought process for Gambit here is that they can take some early towers with the Pugna, but and get some Void the gold through that manner. But there is a decent amount of spam already on iPlay's side with the Lich and the Necro, so maybe a little bit difficult for them to get underneath the towers.
Yep. He's also an independent laner, so you can solo him against the potential Lich dual lane, which means he's fine because he's getting solo EXP. Obviously not the best scenario, but then your support is freed up to do whatever he likes. And one of the ways to play against Lich is to just sack the lane that the Lich is in, and then try to make as much happen on other parts of the map, because the Lich wins his lane by default, so there's really no point in sending more than one hero against the Lich lane unless you think you can actually kill the Lich.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Almost even hinders two heroes if you send them into a lane where the range creep is more often than not going to be denied before it even gets in experience range. Here we have the 4th pick, Huskar, coming out from iPlay. There's already a lot of magic damage on the Gambit side. Really no physical damage to speak of aside from Void right clicks and maybe an enchant totem or two here and there. But that's not going to happen in the early game when the Earthshaker doesn't have blink. So it seems like at this point, with ice armor as well, Huskar slated to have a pretty decent game. There's no real save for the Huskar here, but already feels like he's slated to have a pretty good one. And before that, Gambit going to go for the Jakiro, so continuing with the theme of being able to push these early towers, a lot more with the Macropyre damage that can be contributed into the Chronosphere as well.
So Gambit are in a little bit of a dangerous situation right now. They don't have enough damage to deal with the Huskar early, and Huskar's item timing is basically you hit Armlet and then you start bashing towers like nonstop. And so Gambit, they either have to draft themselves away to get ahead by that point in time with the Armlet where they're actually capable of fighting, because right now they can only fight with ultimates, which isn't good because iPlay will probably pick a 5th hero that allows them to move around the map quickly and help Huskar take objectives. But also Gambit have almost no physical damage until the Void starts picking up a lot of items, and so Gambit have to be able to survive the objective timing from Huskar.
So there's going to be a Spirit Breaker. I mean, Lich, you mentioned being very static early on, but Earthshaker, Jakiro, kind of in a similar vein for Gambit. Not going to be doing too much moving, it seems. Obviously, the Earthshaker more than the Jakiro. How do you feel about how this Pugna can fare against Huskar and potentially a Spirit Breaker?
Well, Pugna is okay against Huskar. Pugna's got a lot of move speed, so he can't get locked down by the Huskar, or he has to get ulted by the Huskar. But also you got the Decryptify, which completely prevents Huskar from hitting someone and prevents the Huskar, And so Pugna is probably okay against Huskar. The thing I'm worried about right now is Gambit probably don't have a way to kill him easily. Void's like one of the best heroes against Huskar later in the game, just because you can chrono Huskar plus the person that saves the Huskar, which doesn't exist this game, but that won't happen until maybe at least 30 minutes into the game where Void has like Manta Diffusal or something similar.
So you mentioned needing a little bit of mobility. You can get the Necrophos into the fight. You can get the Huskar into the fight if he's already used Life Break. You know, Spirit Breaker innately does that, but they pick up the Darkseer here, so they'll have the Surge. They'll have a completely self-sufficient laner, which will allow them to put the Lich either mid or top. So kind of nice, well-rounded 5th pick coming out from iPlay. But they are going to depend heavily, it feels, on either like a Vacuum Chain Frost combo or, in the case that can't happen, pretty much just the Huskar to deal their damage and everyone else kind of playing a control role.
Yeah, and that Razor pick is the answer for the Huskar and the Necrophos, actually. Static Link, you know, prevents or kind of gives like a timeline for the Huskar and Necrophos, like kill or get out, right? And like Razor does enough physical damage that he can actually help deal with the Huskar when the Huskar is locked down by the billion hours of stun on Gambit Esports' team.
Yeah, another hero that can contribute into the Chronosphere, and as you mentioned, all that control, guaranteeing a long duration static link.
It also gives them more winning lane matchups, because now you have the Razor against the Necrophos, which I believe Razor will win handily, and then Pugna versus Necrophos. Pugna doesn't lose against Necrophos. I'm not sure if he wins it, but it's certainly not a losing matchup, and so good last pick from Gambit there. We'll have to see how I play this. Whenever you have a Huskar, there's pretty much a very demanding timeline for your objectives, which is make sure the Huskar actually wins his lane or breaks even, and then start looking for kills and getting objectives. And it doesn't even have to be the Huskar hitting the tower. We saw a Miracle on Team Liquid when he was playing Huskar. He was just zoning out the enemy team and letting his team deal with the towers. So certainly a lot of ways you can play with Huskar, but Huskar has to get his lead pretty much in the mid game. Otherwise, the hero doesn't function. So Gambit are probably aware of that as well.
Which, you know, just continues to add merit to the Razor pick, as you mentioned, kind of being able to stand in their lanes and trade decently. It feels like even if iPlay get an early advantage here, they don't have the greatest in the way of Siege, the greatest heroes for Siege. So there is a good high ground with a Chronosphere and potentially an Echo Slam for Gambit Esports. So I don't think that, you know, a big lead early on necessarily seals this one for iPlay. We'll see how this plays out in towards the mid game.
I mean, Frost Armored Huskar hitting your tower with a Darkseer sitting behind with a vacuum with a Chain Frost. I think that's pretty sufficient.
Ice Armor is definitely
for building.
Time is a great conductor.
So one-on-one top for Darkseer versus Void. Void just has to keep his HP up, but he will be fine in this lane. Shouldn't be solo killed at all. I say that, but it could happen. And then Lich, Huskar, mid. Pretty much Huskar wins this by default, I believe, just because of the sacrifice.
It's going to help out a lot. Kuman going to go for the static link here early on, but again, as you mentioned, that extra experience being taken away from the Razor Huskar should begin to widen the gap in this mid lane. And we kind of mentioned Darkseer being that self-sufficient laner. Bottom lane, though, they're going to hit the Necro with a Fissure and a Nether Blast. He's taking a lot of damage here. Slow is there as well. The second Nether Blast will kill him off. And the Spirit Breaker unable to press back the Gambit Esports aggressive try. They'll get the first blood under their belt.
Yeah, that was really good positioning from the Earthshaker to hide in the corner there. But also, we see one of the weaknesses of having a Lich on your team. He's forced in the dual lane, and so you have to win that lane, and your other lanes will sometimes suffer.
Good recognition from Gambit as well, knowing that their Void can farm decently top lane versus the Darkseer. You know, he's going to be under his tower most of the time, and maybe the tower takes a bit of damage, but and they can kind of pressure this Necro early on, knowing that the Lich will be static bottom lane. Another Nether Blast flying out. Spirit Breaker just going to charge very slightly to the south, as Bignum doing a little bit of warding around southern route.
Yeah. So Razor is still pretty much at full health, which means he's managing the lane quite well. I think one of the things you're worried about whenever you lane against Huskars is the Huskar just going to sit between you and the creep wave and zone you out completely, and it doesn't look like Huskar's in a position to do that because the Earthshaker's around, and because you're actually afraid of the static link. Since once the static link starts racking up, you won't do pretty much any damage to the Razor, even with Burning Spears.
Yeah, and he has a little bit of head in experience, is Kunin, excuse me. Has a couple of denies, but I guess just the constant presence of the Lich in the mid lane kind of rearing its ugly head for the Radiant at this point. Still, though, Huskar keeping, you know, relative pace with the sacrifice of Illable. Kunin mid lane gets blasted up. Fisher is there, though. That will sound the retreat for Gambit. They'll be just fine. And also, the Razor ferried out a new set of tangles and a salve, so has more than enough regen to continue to sustain in lane. Charge going out top lane onto the Void.
Mid, actually. Mid might die.
Fairy Fire there for the Razor. 3 stacks of Burning Spears, but should be okay, it seems. Be very close. Meanwhile, the Charge coming in top lane on the Void. He does have the Time Walk, though, so no real kill potential here. But Spearpricker certainly, in the early game, one of the better Ion Shell carriers now for this Darkseer too.
Yep, so I think iPlay recognized that there's really no point in having heroes bottom. Gambit is managing this Pugna Jakiro lane really well, and there's just so much magic damage between the two of them that a Spiritbreaker can't do anything on his own. And up top, Void's taking quite a bit of damage.
Deep dive. There's a long cooldown on this Time Walk early on, but he does get off into the west and will be able to salve up. Uses most of that duration, actually gets all of it, so good value there. The Darkseer out of mana, does have his Soul Ring already, so and pop up another Ion Shell at will here, but I'm gonna kind of wait on that cooldown. Meanwhile, Dire stymieing the bleeding here in the early game nicely, despite being up against the Lich. Yes, looking pretty good for both sides. Maybe the one glaring kind of weakness or silver lining for the Dire side is that this Necrophos, 1 CS here, 4 minutes in. He's going to get fissured up. Another Blast is there as well. They can't quite kill him off, but again, just bodying him out of lane.
Denied.
Yep, he's almost level 3, and there is a concern for iPlay that if they can't defend against this Pugna Jakiro, they're going to lose a lot of towers, and there's a lot of, up top.
Time Walk is there, Liquid Fire, and the Dual Breath go out onto the Darkseer.
Yes.
But he should be just fine as he'll surge back down towards the Shrine. Shrine's up in 30 seconds. We'll see if he sticks around, farms the jungle up a bit, and just waits for that.
I think both teams are okay with what's happening here. The only pretty much problem is that iPlay's Necrophos is level 3. Not where he wants to be, but he can always catch up with his team, and the Huskar will probably make space for him at some point. Just because the other team, whenever you have a Huskar on your team, the enemy team has to respond to him. And so Necrophos might have some alone time in this bottom lane in the next couple of minutes.
Bignum hanging around mid lane. It is nighttime, but Radiant did see him. This ward. Not going to be surprising everyone, but just showing face in this mid lane to ensure that his Razor can stand his ground. And now they're rotating in. Always want to fly is Jakiro as well. There is no levels in the ice armor here on the Lich. 202 build, opting for that charge coming through, and it is going to scout out the Jakiro perhaps shortly. They get the Frost Nova off. Charge is there as well. Nice Fisher to cancel it. Ice Path is there. Static Link being thrown out. The Spirit Breaker, excuse me, pretty tanky though. And with the second Frost Nova, they will be able to finish off the Razor. Kunin perhaps feeling a little bit too strong as the Razor with his 2 comrades behind him, and will end up going down to the Ion Shell. Meanwhile, you mentioned that it could happen, and the Void, with barely any HP left, Loafer is able to kill off the Faceless Void in the top lane.
Yep. And that's actually a double kill for Darkseer because his Ion Shell finished the Razor mid, so that's a ton of gold going Darkseer's way. He's almost done his Hood. When the Hood comes up, he might be unkillable actually for a really long time. So a lot of Gambit's damage is magic, and this Razor's going to be focused on the Huskar every fight, so.
Yep, not going to be much coming out from the Void early on, especially with that untimely death here, you know, sub 6 minutes. But nevertheless, I mean, he does have 30 CS. His levels are decent as well, sitting on 6. Holding a skill point at this point, so if someone rotates up and they feel they have the kill potential, may jump into that Chronosphere. Meanwhile, bottom lane already here, sub 7 minutes, the safe lane tower for the Radiant being threatened.
This is the Pugna hero in action, in his element.
3 stick charges. Oh, they're going to look for the deny here. Does he commit hard? Bignum rotating in. with the Fisher. One more right click will secure it. Takes a lot of damage though. Now the TP through. They have the surge available. They will surge the Darkseer forward. Only level 4 on the Necrophos, so no point in surging him forward to try and find this kill. But now they get the Ion Shell there. Nice life drain defensively out onto Bignum. Shashari Cat, though, he may be in a little bit of trouble now. The Earthshaker does end up falling inevitably. They will get the Nether Ward gold for their troubles as well. So nice rotation down from the Darkseer. But again, 7 minutes in, eliminating that tier 1. Definitely a big game for Gambit.
So Gambit, they have a couple of wards in the river to spot rotations from the Spearbreaker. And so Spearbreaker is really the only hero on iPlay that can make moves for their team realistically. Like the Lich isn't going to walk up and start a kill, so these are some pretty smart wards from Gambit. Really, the only lane that's causing trouble for them right now is top lane. The Razor's doing... He's surviving then. Like, he's level 5, the other two heroes are level 6, but, you know, that's just life against the Lich Huskar.
As that sacrifice begins to scale up. Another thing to mention, Franz, is that the Chronosphere was expended top lane, and it seems like for really nothing. Not sure what he used it for, but it's going to be about a minute or so where, you know, iPlay are going to feel pretty safe to get confident.
Pugna's going to continue to push this bottom lane, and as long as the Pugna is safe from the Spiritbreaker, he can probably stay in this bottom lane, but it looks like he's going to TP top, maybe trying to put some damage on this top tower.
Yeah, joining up with the Jakiro certainly seems reasonable. Jakiro 2 levels in the Liquid Fire here. Shashari Cat, about half his mana pool. He has both a Void Stone and Arcane Boots as well. Bignum, though, he's going to get spotted out, charged up. Fisher will be there in time. And now they should be aware that there are at least a couple of heroes looking to defend this top lane. But just kind of...
These Fishers stopping the charges have been quite on point.
Here comes a charge through 2. Ion Shell is there as well, jumping into the backlines with the Frost Nova. Nice Fisher to keep back the Lich, but really to no avail as the Pugna will end up going down. Always Want to Fly is able to TP out still, though. They end up getting the kill. It's a fairly large commitment from iPlay's side, but no one really pushing or finding objectives elsewhere, so they'll certainly be happy with that grab.
Yep. Really good play from iPlay there, rotating their Spiritbreaker in, and now they have these 4 heroes top, so they might be able to get the safe lane tower. I mean, Gambit aren't quite in a position to respond. The Razor's all the way in bottom lane, level 6, probably not where you want to be.
And immediately popped. They looked to smoke with the Earthshaker and Void, and immediately the Spearbreaker just sitting up here. They had some Radiant Vision nearby as well, so well aware of what was going on, and they just popped that smoke. So not going to be any sort of surprise factor, but they do jump forward, find the Chrono. Nether Ward is down. There's the Life Drain and the Blast, but the Darkseer too tanky, as you mentioned, with that Hood. They get the Reaper Scythe off, finish off the Pugna for the second time in about 2 minutes. Now Razor flying through with the Plasma Field will finish off the Lich. However, certainly the worthy trade going iPlay's way, and they want more. Necrophos going to jump forward. They get the Static Link off. He does not have a Reaper Scythe. Nice Fisher will keep them back, but the Vacuum is there. Double Ion Shell, bringing down the Razor. Unstable Current cannot save you from that damage over time, and this is going to mean, as you mentioned moments ago, that this safe lane tier 1 is going to drop for the Dire.
Yeah, that was a really tough fight for Gambit to begin with. iPlay were already set up in that top lane. I think Gambit kind of felt that as well. They went for smoke. Unfortunately, the smoke was broken, so they really didn't get the positioning they wanted. I mean, they Chronosphered the Darkseer. Darkseer has a Hood, took barely any damage, and then the Pugna got stuck in the weirdest position in between 4 heroes, and so really well played by iPlay. And now
Bignum in lane. Now the charge comes from the north, and not anticipating it with a Fisher there. He's going to end up dropping. That's going to be the first kill going the Huskar's way. Big one for him to get, as he just picked up his Armlet not too long ago. Going to scale up second overall in net worth, only behind his Darkseer, who has by all rights had a fantastic early game.
Yep. And so this is the timing that iPlay wants. They want their Huskar to be in a position where he's so much stronger than the enemy team that, or strong enough that the enemy team can't deal with him. And I think that time is soon. His team is making a ton of space for him, so Huskar doesn't even have to do any of the objective taking. Up top, might have a kill.
Yeah, big commitment here on the counterplay from Gambit. They look, oh, nice vacuum to cancel the life strain, but the ice path just clips the spear breaker. He has a charge in 1 second. He's going to look for the TP out here. Macropyre finds him just in the nick of time. Darkseer will be able to make it out, but as you mentioned, it's kind of just space for the rest of the squad. Necrophos finally finding some space for himself. Bot lane has a hood of his own. He's level 8, so he's recovered really nicely. Lich over in the mid lane looking to eclipse the level 9 mark soon. And overall, just experience-wise, the Radiant leading all of the top 4 contenders on the charts.
Yep. And Earthshaker for some reason has 2 points in Enchant Totem. I don't know if that was intentional. There's a charge on the bottom lane. I don't think this will be a kill though.
Does have the time lock available. Chrono is there as well. Another strike, not in time to bounce him back. And it being
Spirit Breaker
nighttime.
did have his ultimate skilled.
So he just skilled it at the last moment. Perhaps they were able to get him into the Reaper Scythe if he did, but either way, they get a kill on the Jakiro mid lane for the Huskar, and with the top lane tower already taken out, ice armor available here, something that you mentioned early on, speaking of the draft, they are going to put a little bit of punishment into this mid lane tower. Darkseer with the hood, 1200 HP, very difficult kill. We'll just put some karate chops into the building. As they look to back off here. They do have a Chronosphere. Maybe it's time for Gambit to try and look to make a play. Just the Phase Boots Aquila on the Razor, though. Not the scariest at this point. And he has kind of been relegated to farming in this top area of the map.
Yeah. I mean, iPlay are okay with this situation. They don't necessarily want to fight directly into the enemy team right now, just because one well-placed Chronosphere is the end of their momentum. And so Huskar's playing it safe. He's just jungling really with no health, but I mean that's how Huskar's jungle. And so I think as soon as they feel like the time is right, which apparently is now because they went for smoke, they're going to go for a play or Roshan.
Armlet and Sanj on this Huskar can be a very difficult order to fill. That one to bring him down for Gambit. He does have his ice armor behind him, level 2 at this point. Ward down from the Radiant side, and it looks like they'll look towards top lane where the Razor resides. Charge comes out. He should have known because of unstable current, but there's no response inbound from the Dire side, and he will be scythed up and brought down. 40 seconds on the sidelines here, just 14 minutes into the game. The wave, though, unfortunately for iPlay, not nearby this tower, so it seems like it'll just be the kill for now. Mid lane, though, life break in onto the Pugna. Charge comes out as well. Nice vacuum onto 3. Macropyre is there, though, with the Chrono. The Huskar could be in trouble. They need a couple more right clicks, and they'll get it. That is a big kill. Darkseer backing his way out. Chain Frost, though, through a few unlucky bounce for the Radiant as it goes up towards the creep. The Spirit Breaker, though, will be able to kill off the Pugna. Now Bignum in trouble. He'll end up dying to the Heartstopper Aura. And the Necrophos double kill for him. So despite them getting a big kill on the Huskar early on, it still ends up being that 3-for-1 trade overall. And that is a couple minutes where the Chronosphere now off the table for game.
Yep. Really well played by iPlay. I mean, the Chrono unfortunately killed the Huskar for them, but that put Gambit in a really weird position where they were just stuck so tight behind that tower that all the AoE coming out from iPlay was able to do a ton of work. And you know, Necrophos just walks into the fight and gets 2 or 3 kills, so he's completely back in the game. He's got a hood and a veil. Very difficult to kill right now.
Something you alluded to earlier is that he can just recover with his teammates within these fights, with the Huskar being the kind of distraction point for him. As you mentioned, just
it wasn't even the Huskar that was the distraction point. It was just that top lane. The Darkseer and the Spirit Breaker making so much space for his team. This Darkseer sitting at top net worth. I mean, he's rich.
Has been all game long. Shishari Cat walks over a ward, but they're not willing to commit in onto him just yet. There's a couple of heroes missing for Gambit's side.
So Gambit, they have to do a good job of retaining their map control, defending their towers when they can. They have to get to the point where their Void is strong enough to 1v1 one of iPlay's heroes.
He's looking for a Diffusal Blade, just has the Blade of Alacrity at the moment. Jumping forward top lane with the Darkseer invisible. Charge onto Bignum. He will now pop off the Ion Shell. Doesn't get in range. Will get the vacuum back, though. Nether Strike is there as well, and the Earthshaker is easy pickings for iPlay side. Netherward is down with Lich, excuse me, gonna rotate around the east and actually takes a good amount of damage and has to back because of that Netherward.
Thank you.
They really want this mid tower, which will help them get map control of the mid area for Roshan later.
Fossa takes a good amount of damage here from the plasma field. Still has the armlet though to toggle up. Bignum or near a blink dagger, so can't really find an initiation. Doesn't even have echo just yet here. 17 minutes in. Earthshaker just shy of his level 6 mark. Bit of a concern for the Dire.
Yeah. So Huskar without an Oracle or Dazzle is a little bit strange. I mean, he's still functional as a hero, but you have to be a little bit more careful with him because Huskar, he wants to be crazy. He wants to be in the middle of a fight, super low HP, so he's dishing out tons of damage. But when you don't have a Pugna, or when you don't have a save, and when the enemy team has a huge teamfight spell like Chronosphere, you have to play like a normal hero. So he's playing carefully. He's been sitting back, farming the jungle. And now they're going for Roche, but the enemy team is smoked.
Jump forward. Chrono's going to find 3. The Macropyre is there as well. Can they bring the Huskar down, though? He's far too tanky at this point. Maybe they get the Aegis. They do end up getting it on the Void, and he looks like he will drop here shortly. The Chain Frost bouncing through 2 kills off the Earthshaker. Kuhnman still standing strong, though, with Shashari Cat. They bring down the Spirit Breaker, and when all is said and done, they snatch the Aegis. Did they even get the kill there? They got the Dire, got the Roche kill and the Aegis, bring down the Huskar and the Spirit Breaker. They lose the Aegis in the process, but well worth it for the Dire side, excuse me. They may even end up getting this mid lane tower as well.
Yep, that's precisely what Gambit needed to keep themselves in this game. I mean, they're still behind on net worth, but they've delayed the ending, basically, of the game from iPlay by at least until this Aegis, or at least until the next Roshan. And iPlay, they got a little bit greedy there. I think that was maybe a little bit of overconfidence to try to go for Roche there, but they didn't even have anyone trying to break a potential smoke from the Void, so the Void got off a perfect chrono into Macropyre, and he even took the Roche kill in the middle of all of that, so really well played by the Gambit.
I think you make the key point there is that there was no one standing outside of the pit. I mean, even when you even have your Spirit Breaker in there right-clicking on the Roche, a bit peculiar, so... they do get, as you mentioned, kind of the comeback, the beginning of a comeback window with that takedown on the Huskar as well as the Aegis. Going to be fairly close to Diffusal Blade now, about 800 gold away for the Faceless Void.
iPlay, they're still okay with pushing even though there's a chrono on the Void. Or was it expended? I guess there's no Aegis, so... You know, iPlay, they have to continue the pressure because if they don't, then their heroes fall behind or they start to lose their lead.
Did complete up the Halberd as well on the Huskar, so going to get ever the more difficult to bring down even within this Chronosphere. And no Pipe just yet. Oh, Pipe is actually completed, so Pipe and Mech on top of the Ice Armor and the Halberd for the Huskar. So as long as the Darkseer can stay out of range of this Chronosphere, it feels like it's going to be impossible to kill off whoever's in it. See how the Dire end up faring. Doesn't look like right now they have any sort of major intent to defend bottom lane. They are slowly trickling in heroes, but still pushing out other lanes with the Pugna. Jump forward. Chrono only finds the Huskar. Can they really kill him off here? Vacuum back into a 4-man wall. Fisher is there. Echo Slam connects onto 2. And Huskar still surviving. Will Lifebreak to the south does end up going down, but at what cost? 2 heroes already dead for Gambit. Razor in trouble now as well. He'll get brought down by the Frost Blast. Shashari Cat still standing and fighting. Now the charge comes through. Nice Rod of Atos to cancel. Nether Blast is not quite enough to kill off the Spirit Breaker, but one more right click from the Pugna will. Somehow these 2 heroes from Gambit still kind of standing their ground. They only get a Spirit Breaker, though. 4 heroes dead on Gambit's side. And again, you kind of mentioned in the draft, you need this Chronosphere to catch not only the Huskar, but potentially the hero that's going to save him. And although they don't have a traditional one, they do have a Darkseer with a Pipe and a Mech in this game. And only grabbing the Huskar with the Chrono, even having to walk around the trees there for the Void to begin right-clicking him, just not ideal for Gambit.
Yeah, certainly wasn't ideal, but... it wasn't the worst fight. I think they killed 2 or 3 heroes there, so Pugna's in a much better position than he was before, and he's actually got 3 pretty big items sitting on 2nd highest net worth, you know, behind only the Godly or Darkseer. That is Loafer. And so Gambit, they're still in this game, although they're 4K net worth behind. I think a lot of their net worth deficit has to be this Razor, though. This Razor didn't get the lane, the kind of ideal lane, obviously, since he was against the Lich Huskar, so it's not unexpected that he's this behind, but he certainly needs to survive one or two of these team fights to put himself back into this game, because Razor isn't a hero that naturally farms quickly.
Yeah, you speak of the Pugna. I mean, he's got almost full 3 items now, but perhaps even the major beneficiary of that last exchange is going to be Bignum's Earthshaker, who 22 minutes in is finally able to pick up the Blink Dagger. We'll see if he's able to kind of surprise the backline with a Blink Echo on the next Chronosphere initiation. But as you mentioned, iPlay going to continue to ramp up the pressure here, pushing into this middle lane, especially when they feel this Chronosphere is down. It is now back up, though. And Daxik did finish up the Diffusal as well.
If they don't get towers, at minimum, they want to force the heroes on Gambit to group up so that the heroes on Gambit don't just farm all across the map. And so, you know, they back off, they go for smoke, they show their Spirit Breaker, oh, actually their Spirit Breaker's invis on the map, so they may be able to get a kill off of this.
Pugna nearby. Into the fog goes the Spirit Breaker, maybe looking for the backline first. He'll find always want to fly under a sentry, though. The Jakiro is able to back up, but the Pugna may not be so lucky. He's going to get Frost Blasted up. Is able to cancel the charge with the Rod of Atos, and still not dying yet in this Chronosphere. Jumping into the backline was the Huskar. Beautiful vacuum. Echo Slam, though, is going to be there. They'll finish off the Huskar. It's a 1-for-1. Thus far, Pugna still surviving here all by his lonesome with the pipe and with the hood and the Rod of Atos. So tanky, and somehow Gambit, they've made this fight theirs. Turning tail and running is the Necrophos. He's going to get decrept up. Fisher will block him off. Plasma Field is going to be there, and he'll be brought down. Pugna still surviving. Shashari Cat, impossible to kill on this Pugna. What a fight from Gambit Esports. They go from almost a 5K net worth deficit that you mentioned now down to 1K after that fight.
Yep. That Chronosphere paused so many of the enemy heroes that the Gambit, the rest of the heroes that weren't stuck in the Chrono, could have dealt with the Huskar, and there was someone else that wasn't for the Chrono. So from then on, Gambit just went on to win the team fight because so much of iPlay's damage was missing from the fight. And,
bit of an early Reaper Scythe coming out as well from the Necrophos, unable to net themselves a kill on the Pugna.
I mean, Pugna has a hood which sort of protects him against the Chain Frost, against the Ion Shell, and against the Reaper Scythe. And also, one of the great mysteries of Dota, why does Pugna get a plus 225 health talent at level 10? It's a lot. I mean, Nature's Prophet has plus 250 for some reason, so at level 10 that is a lot of health.
Pugna at level 10 though feels kind of a little more useful than a Prophet, I would say, in most cases. So 225 health is a lot, especially relative to the other plus health talents in the game. But as you mentioned, just all that effective HP now with the full pipe, not just the hood, Aether Lens, Rod of Atos, giving him all that strength. And the last couple of charges, you mentioned it, really early on in the game, kind of the only way they have to get into these fights is, you know, a surge target or the Spear Breaker. And the last couple charges into the fights have been canceled with that Rod of Atos.
There's a smoke coming from iPlay. I mean, iPlay, they probably feel pressured right now to make a lot of moves since their lineup is very much a timing lineup with the Huskar. And so they're going for a really big rotation here. I wonder if they see the enemy team grouped up here. Feels like Gambit's anticipating a smoke gank. They're set up really well right now.
Oh, they catch the Spear Breaker with the Ice Path. They get a Plasma Field out. Another ward is there behind the cliff. Unbeknownst initially to the Radiant side, and they will just extricate themselves from any further danger. Gambit will continue to farm away.
Yeah, Gambit, I think they anticipated the smoke and just positioned themselves in the trees next to the shrine. So they had the shrine to fight, and they had the superior positioning.
They do have this ward down in mid lane. Perhaps they caught a glimpse of the smoke there and catch it at a time. The ward's been there for about a couple of minutes, so it is possible.
I think even if they don't catch the smoke, if you see a lot of enemy heroes running through there, it's very suspicious, especially if they all go missing off the map immediately after. And so, really good map awareness from Gambit there. And Faceless Void getting close to his BKB. At that point, he'll be able to actually kill a hero now that he can Diffusal off the Necrophos Growth Shroud and Diffusal off the Frost armor.
Yeah, all the heroes, all the cores now, I should say, for Gambit, significant contenders as far as net worth goes. I mean, the Razor had a pretty brutal start, but full S and Y on top of his Blade Mail now, working in towards his BKB, so everyone's recovered real nicely for Gambit side, and yeah, the Void starting to become a concern.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of heroes in this game starting to become a concern. Oscar is nearing his BKB. It won't make him invincible, but it'll make him very difficult to kill. Darkseer, massive, working on a Lotus Orb soon. That should help his team against the Atos and against... just against the Atos, actually, I think. But still a really good item, provides a ton of armor for Darkseer himself. Maybe he might consider a Blink was probably a better item choice for him. He has that queued up now instead.
Is there any alternative to kind of the pressure game plan for the Radiant side? It seems like the Necrophos is queuing up a Radiance, which kind of feels like they want to drag this one out as opposed to continuing to apply pressure.
I think they have to prevent the enemy team from getting Rosh.
Oh, jump forward. This may be the exact pick they need to look in towards that Roshan. They find the Huskar, but he's extremely tanky at this point. Jump forward Echo is going to find a couple. Huskar still surviving, though, will be able to armlet toggle as well. Has most of his damage taken out, but on the north side of the fight, they will be able to take out the Spirit Breaker. It's a 1-for-1 trade thus far. Fire do have a lot of damage on their Razor, but it looks like they'll get out towards top lane and be able to push that wave out. So a lot expended there. Echo Slam off the board. No real big ultimates from the Radiant side, so maybe they feel they want to fight here. There still is, however, Chronosphere for the Dire.
I mean, there's no saves on the Radiant team, but friggin' Pipe and Greaves doing so much work keeping that Huskar alive. And Gambit, they have a lot of CC, but not a lot of burst damage. All of their damage is basically over time or like slow. It's not fast, and so they really can burst the Huskar. I mean, they could barely out damage the inner vitality as soon as Huskar started reaching those lower HP values, and so iPlay, they managed to turn around a gank.
Yeah, it almost felt like maybe the Void a little, I don't know, a bit of PTSD from the bottom lane tier 2 fight where he only chronos the Huskar and it doesn't go swimmingly. So here he kind of holds his Chronosphere, and unfortunately for that, enough support was able to be inbound for the Huskar to keep him alive. But nothing really lost major from either side. 1-for-1 trade, as we mentioned. Just the Echo Slam cooldown, which is up in 1 minute.
Yeah. So Necrophos, as you said, working on a Radiance, should help him scale into the late game. Actually gives him some wave clearing ability, gives him some farming ability, and Necrophos is a pretty godly hero late game. I mean, if he goes Ags, it puts the Reaper Scythe cooldown to 25, which is ridiculous, and then he starts getting items like armor items and Dagon 5 maybe, and
it's ridiculous, Ice Frog. Ridiculous.
It's pretty ridiculous.
You've heard it here first. You've probably heard it many times, let's be honest.
But you know, the hero needs a lot to get to that point, and so I can't say the hero's necessarily broken. He just fits really well in this patch because of the way the game is being played and because of the heroes that are being picked.
So we have yet to see the BKB used by the Huskar, sitting on 10 seconds now, and he is under the Shroud of Invisibility looking to find a pick. He'll run into Bignum here, maybe walks up the hill, sees what's behind him. A little bit scared. Will jump forward. Now the TP inbound. Echo Slam going to be used immediately. Nice vacuum into 3. BKB's popped on both sides. Chain Frost flying through. They'll always want to fly, taking tons of damage. And the Void in trouble. He gets the Chronosphere off, but it's right before he dies. 3 heroes dead. 2 on the sidelines for 60 seconds. This will mean at least tier 3, it feels, for the Radiant side. Rax is even threatened here. No buybacks.
I'm tempted to say that even if the Void had buyback, iPlay would continue pushing because the Chrono is expended, which means there's almost no teamfight potential coming out of Gambit. And whenever you have a Huskar lineup, you want to push timing, you want to push...
oh, nice Force Staff aggressively onto Shashari Cat. They'll get him with the charge and the first hit bash. He'll be forced to buy back here. Razor actually doing a lot of damage to the Spirit Breaker, but again, the Greaves saving him. Gets down towards the Shrine. Huskar jumping forward, baits him in a little bit with the BKB, but again, do they have enough damage to bring him down? Couple of right clicks come through, but it's just not enough with the Halberd there. They do at least defend their tier 3, however, for the time being, which is impressive to say the least with only 3 heroes up. It does cost them, however, the Shashari Cat Pugna buyback.
iPlay, I think they're happy with what they got out of that despite not getting the tier 3, and I think that's 1 buyback and a total of maybe 4 or 5 kills, and so they start working on Roach. Hopefully this isn't a repeat of what
5 heroes in the pit. They will jump 2 out. That's the Darkseer and the Lich. Void will find the Darkseer. Ice Path is there as well. They could kill off the DS, but it maybe just see iPlay disengage. He is able to surge away and make it out. Now Huskar jumping forward under the cover of BKB. He is unkillable. Shishari Cat, that's a dieback on the Pugna. They lose the Lich in the process, but really nothing of value is lost here for iPlay. They'll continue to press forward. Armlet trying to toggle there will end up dropping. 3 heroes still alive for Gambit, trying to make it away. Nice jump forward with the vacuum for the Darkseer. Veil is there as well. They'll force forward on the Necrophos, get a Death Pulse off, and now the Void in a little bit of trouble. They will keep him back with the Reaper Scythe. He should be able... No, he's not. Cannot time walk it off. Always want to fly dead. 4 heroes on the sidelines, none of which have buyback. Earthshaker will be up soon. And the only kind of saving grace for Gambit is that this wave is pushed out towards the river.
Really good decision from iPlay there to go for the Roche. I mean, Gambit, they still had heroes that were respawning, and Chronosphere was down even during the Roche fight, and so iPlay, they were able to secure Roshan, net a couple of kills, and I bet they'll get Rex here actually.
Come forward, Inner Vitality, he popped up. We'll blink on the Darkseer, over top the Fisher, and look to take out the tier 3. 20 seconds, still no Void in this fight. They do have a Blink Echo, and iPlay almost promptly, as I say that, will spread. Make it a little less effective. They'll get the melee racks. 10 seconds with the Void on the sidelines. Ice Path, will fly. Greaves are there for good measure. Fisher is going to block off the rest of the Radiant side, but the Force Staff coming out from the Necrophos will save the Huskar, and they'll charge out and deal with their lanes as Relic and the Radiance recipe now picked up by the Necrophos. This game just got a lot more difficult for Gambit after the last couple of events.
And so Gambit, they sort of have a problem with their lineup in that there's really no burst damage, so even when they chrono people, their opponents don't die quickly enough, and so Razor and Pugna are heroes that do well when the fights are super long. They get longer static links, Pugna gets more spells off, whereas Huskar completely counters that, because the longer Huskar survives, the more he heals, and the more you burn, basically, and so...
Necrophos as well, very adept at kind of sticking around in fights and just doing damage over time, especially with the Radiance build now as well. It looks like a little bit of desperation time for Gambit. They're going to drop down a ward. They won't quite catch a glimpse of anyone in this mid lane, but going to try and find someone up towards the high ground. They will find Teal. That's the Spirit Breaker. Not exactly the hero they wanted, but it is something. Allows them to get down some vision as well.
They got 2 very key wards that they might smoke or play around in the next couple of minutes, but for now they have to get their lanes out, especially top and bottom, and so they back off. iPlay, they're okay with that. That's 5 heroes smoking for just a single Spirit Breaker, so as soon as the Spirit Breaker is up, or maybe even before that, they might regroup and try to make a move. They are certainly in the winning position right now. They're not necessarily in a hurry, but definitely they are in a position to go for kills if Gambit aren't prepared.
You do have a Halberd on the Razor. Maybe that allows them to ignore the Huskar for a bit while they try to deal with the remainder of the lineup, but still very difficult kills all around in the Darkseer and the Necrophos with how much farm they've been able to accrue this game, so we'll see how they can put it to use here for the Razor. Huskar gets his BKB off early. Doesn't feel like they'll put it to use at all, but we'll see how things pan out. Again, iPlay going to posture up towards the top area of the map, looking for the last outer tier tower here.
Oh, Lotus Sword reflects static link, actually. I just thought about that, so they might use that to help the Huskar do some sieging. It's just one less thing to worry about, basically. But, fun fact, before this smoke goes off, if you Lotus Orb static link and Razor has the cast range, Razor's static link is longer than yours, and they check that.
Jump forward, Echo Slam will find the Huskar. They're going forward with the Chrono, and they'll catch the backline. Can they kill him off? They got the Lotus Orb off onto the Huskar. Chain Frost bouncing through, not doing all that much damage, but neither is the Void. Huskar still standing strong. Blade Mail popped by Kunin. Looks like the Radiant want to back off and reset. They try and look for the Pugna, unable to grab him. The Reaper Scythe is there, but it's not enough damage. Shashard Cat, he's still surviving at this point. Does get brought down to the Frost Blast. Still, though, Gambit holding their ground. They'll time walk out on the Void. Bignum may just be the sacrificial lamb for his Faceless Void. Kuman and Daxik going to be able to make it back for now. But they do still get the tower, and nothing really deterring them. They've kind of, it feels like, been wary of the lack of buybacks in the last few fights. So undeterred, they will walk up to the high ground. Chikiro does come back, the only hero of the three dead with buyback, and that'll be enough to dissuade iPlay from pressing forward. But still a decent fight for them, losing the Darkseer and the Spirit Breaker. They do end up getting 3 and forcing 1 buyback.
Casualties on both sides, but iPlay are happy about that, especially now that the Jikiro has also expended his buyback, but also the Chrono's down, which means that when their heroes are out, they might be able to do something, although there's a really tight window. But it does mean that they get a little bit of space to farm again. Not that they didn't have it before, but
no one really nearing that level 25 mark just yet. So balance. Kind of speak of.
For me.
Void looking for an MKB. They have lacked damage.
Against the Huskar.
They've definitely lacked damage, and it was a great chrono placement top lane. Unfortunately, did catch the Razor, so they lacked a lot of their physical damage in that aspect, but just unable to kill off the Huskar really just leaves you wanting as the dire side. Movement up towards the southern shrine for the Radiant side. And they'll just show the Necrophos for now.
Gold is a great conductor.
The Void needs a ton of items if he wants to kill the Huskar this game. Void's doing this cool trick where you lock the combining of your Diffusal 1 with the recipe in your backpack.
Until you use up the charges.
Cool, neat trick, but iPlay, they don't care for it. They're just gonna hit this tower.
Ice Path will fly. It only connects onto the Huskar. All the ultimates, aside from Macropyre, available for Gambit's side. Macropyre will be up shortly. Shashari Cat looking to flank. Could be in a little bit of trouble if they catch a glimpse of him here. Jump forward from the Necrophos. He'll get veiled up. Charge is there. Reaper Scythe is there early. It does a lot of damage. Chronosphere catches onto 2, but the Chain Frost will finish off the Pugna. They do end up getting a kill onto the Necro, however. Huskar still standing strong and doing work. Gambit, or Bignum, excuse me, finds 2 on the backlines with an Echo, and now the Void jumping forward. All 3 cores looking to try and fight into Mufasa, but he is just far too strong. They get a bash, however, and they bring him down. Darkseer turning tail, able to run. He blinks away. Still though, successful defense, almost baiting the Shashari Cat Pugna out, finding a big Chrono. They do end up killing the Pugna in the Chrono. But the Razor, I suppose, finally able to do damage for the dire side. Look at the fight recap. And Razor does the most damage, 2,700 for his squad there. Not caught in the Chrono that time.
That was a full static blink on the Huskar, and so Razor was just able to do so much damage as well as through the Blade Mail, since the Huskar was hitting Razor through the Blade Mail, and so really well fought by Gambit. I mean, they baited the Pugna, which you don't usually think happens, but they did bait the Pugna, and then iPlay got stuck in a really weird spot after expending all of their spells on the Pugna, including the Reaper Scythe.
Yeah, that Reaper Scythe seemed a lot more logical than the previous one that came out early. It brought Pugna really low. They were just short of killing him, but good reaction by the Gambit side with the Void there.
Oh.
A lot of gold going the way of the dire side, looking to build into an AC for Kuman, and he's still a couple thousand gold away from that, but this will help them in a big way to get a little bit of map control back as well. Putting down some wards near the river on the north side, trying to see out in some rotations. And well on his way to the MKB, excuse me, Void.
So iPlay are ahead by quite a bit, but they still have to respect the team fight from Gambit, and so maybe getting caught there wasn't the best for them. They did get baited into killing the Pugna though, and this Razor's starting to be an issue. I mean, second highest net worth. His Razor's basically just fought his way back into the game, and so he's gonna start being an issue for Huskar, especially when you get that plus 14 static link damage steal. I mean, it just starts draining so much faster, and you know, the burning spears damage starts becoming more negligible.
Right.
Since a lot of Huskar's actual damage comes from his physical attacks.
Yeah, especially in towards the later game, and with 2 BKBs up on the major cores of Gambit's side, certainly static link can really mitigate what you're able to do as this Huskar.
Yep. And so Earthshaker, he's got a Shadow Blade, he's got a Blink, which makes his initiation a little bit easier and a lot harder for the enemy team to see coming. So that should be good for him. I mean, he has to find either the Darkseer or the Necrophos or the Lich every fight just to stun them and prevent them from casting their spells. And Darkseer doesn't look like he has a BKB queued up, so he really has no way of stopping people from preventing his Blink.
Yeah, the one thing I feel we didn't see in that fight was a big vacuum wall, which we've seen almost, you know, countless times so far from Low for this game. But as you mentioned, Bignum able to get to the backline, hits the Lich and Darkseer with the Echo Slam in that fight, and the Chain Frost had to be expended just to kill off the Pugna, who was pretty much solo in the Chrono with the Void having his BKB active. And just kind of a really good turn of events for Gambit there, and certainly not I would say not a completely strong foothold in this game now, but they are a lot better equipped to deal with offer.
All of iPlay's damage pretty much has to be their Huskar and their Necrophos just walking into the fight, since there's no like Blink Abyssal or Blink or like Slark Pounce kind of initiations in this fight. And so Gambit, their team fight is a lot faster. It's a Blink Echo, it's a Time Lock into Chrono, and then the damage is up front and it's long range. And so iPlay, they have to watch their positioning a little bit better, and they have to make sure that the first target they catch is a good one. And I don't think they can afford to catch the Pugna anymore. The Pugna's just a distraction at this point, since his 2 cores are the ones that you have to worry about in the team fights. You have to worry about the static link getting put on the Huskar. So if the Huskar does get static link, you have to make sure that someone's ready to force staff him out, or at least get the Huskar out of the static link. And then you have to make sure that the Chrono isn't on like a critical hero like the Necrophos or the Darkseer.
And with BKB, it's going to be hard to stop the Razor from just BKB phase booting in and at least keeping some duration of that link on the Huskars. We'll see how they end up faring. Either way, we have a pause for the moment. Feels like the Spirit Breaker's impact has dwindled over time in this one. They had a lot of ways early on to kind of deal with his charge initiation, and as you mentioned, just a little bit more decisive, a little bit more hasty, is the initiation from the Void and the Earthshaker.
Spirit Breaker works less well when he's the only initiator on his team. He needs to he's best when he can follow up, or he's best at getting ganks first of all, but in team fights he's best when he's the follow up, because then he just charges through more people, or he's actually able to lock down one target while your other disabler goes for the rest.
A bit of a shortcoming in this Radiant draft, just disable in general.
On pause now. Darkseer working on a Shiva's. Necrophos working on a Heart, which is a little bit interesting since I don't think he has an HP issue this game. I think the issue for iPlay is more of a damage first issue. Yeah. Maybe
So
like
Pugna just spent a shit ton of money as well, which Shushari Cat picked up. BKB comes out for the Spirit Breaker. On the Courier, but Pugna did just have 3k gold, so perhaps something in his stash.
I don't see it. Maybe it was that Ogre Club.
Double damage!
Could have been.
Void getting pretty close to his own KP. I don't think he should save for buyout, just because if your Chrono's down, the hero's useless, or not useless, but less effective, and so
Agree entirely. They will smoke up now. Close to the AC for the Razor, but he'd have to forgo buyback as well. Both teams smoked in towards this mid lane. Looks like high ground advantage will go the way of the Dire. Jumping forward is the Huskar. He gets the BKB, or he doesn't even need to pop this BKB just yet. Shashari Cat gonna completely drop to the Burning Spears. Now the Void out in no man's land. It's gonna get bursted down, disarmed. Can't get the time walk off. Now jumping forward is Mufasa. He'll find Always Wanna Fly. Triple kill over to the east side. They get the Reaper Scythe off onto the Razor. 4 heroes down all of the sudden, where it seemed like Gambit had a good way to initiate into that fight. Now the 5th in trouble. Gets an Echo Slam off, but it's an ultra kill for the Huskar. 2 buybacks expended, 3 unavailable for Gambit Esports. And in a flash, this may be looking like GG.
You know, sometimes you just smoke and walk into an invis double damage Huskar and die, and so... basically, that's what happened there. I mean, the Huskar just destroyed the Pugna in like 5 hits, and so teamfight was over for Gambit at that point.
Yeah, Shashari Cat not expecting it, at all. His decrep even seemed kind of late. But as you mentioned, they didn't quite realize instantly why their smoke popped. They tried to set up on the high ground, and Huskar just jumps in on Shashari Cat, finishes him off. A little bit of vengeance for that Pugna bait just outside the base. That'll be Megas at the very least. There will be one last hurrah, though, it seems, for the Dire side. They'll catch a Chrono onto 2 Mufasa. Not caught in the Chrono alone. Look how much damage he's doing to this Void. They won't be able to kill off the Necro just yet. And this will be the beginning of the end, as GG, well played, is called. iPlay, the open qualifier team, taking out the clear favorite Gambit Esports in this game 1.
iPlay, I think they just got a really good lead at the start of the game. Darkseer got a solo kill on the Void. Their Lich Huskar lane beat the Razor pretty convincingly, and although their Necro didn't do best in the bottom lane, they did catch him up later using the other 3 heroes that were in the top lane. And so iPlay, really well played. Win game 1.
Great team fight execution overall, particularly from the Darkseer, who goes 7-1-28 KDA in that game. Just the one kind of major mishap at the Roche pit, where they had a little bit too many people in the pit there. But either way, all's well that ends well for iPlay in game 1, guys. Hope you enjoyed the cast. MRP and Franz. It is a best of 3. We've got 2 NA best of 3s coming up after this one. But for now, iPlay going to take the lead 1-0.